You know, what has been the driving force for you with regard to your work? What's the underlying commitment or passion that's driven you, do you think?
Well, there was one big one actually, and that was to provide for my family to a level that I never had myself, a level of being able to do the things that you need to do. I've sent all my children away overseas from when they're 11, and now I've started to do the same thing with my grandchildren. I send them as soon as they turn 11. They've all gone away, every one of them, up to date. We look after that, and I'd like to put something together down at the Surf Coast in the way of a holiday place so they can all come there together and all have their own separate apartments. This brings the family together constantly, all the time, particularly school holiday times, Christmas holidays, allows the cousins to get to know each other really well and play well together. You develop that strong supportive family structure that I think as you go through life becomes invaluable, because sooner or later, one or another is going to get into some sort of a position of need. And if you've got a strong family around you, it's there, you help get you through. So that's been what's driven me, I suppose, to be able to provide that opportunity.
Had a meeting with sort of the two generations that are in the business at the moment, and we asked all of our kids what they wanted to do, whether they wanted the business to continue on, and if they didn't, that was fine, but I wasn't willing to work for the next 20 years and then they were going to sell it the next day. So they were so adamant that they wanted the business to continue past their generation that that's all you need. It's obvious that they are passionate about it too, and I don't know where they got that from. We didn't make them work in the family business, and we didn't say, well, you know, this is the greatest thing ever. They just observed it and made their decision. From when I was 3 or 4, we used to work, you know, say 7 or 8, we used to work on the boat and work on the shop, and I used to say to Dad, you know, well, I want to be paid. And he'd say to all the kids, you know, if you want to get paid, that's fine, just put a timesheet in. So I started a company called Arshaw. We have dealings with feeling and meaning. That was my motto. And I used to put my timesheet in, and I was the only one who ever got paid because I actually did it.
I don't think I had a great vocation for nursing, but I'm sure that, like nursing, I was a very caring person, and I don't think I could ever have done any more for any patient that I ever looked after. There was a patient who I loved, a Mrs. Stanley, who went to theatre for, you know, I got her prepared her for theatre. She had a growth on her tongue, and oh gee, what she came back, how she came back after theatre was just heart-rending for her and for her family and for us as nurses too, because she'd had to have so much of her face removed, and I felt great compassion for her, and I formed a friendship with her. She used to write letters to me for, you know, a couple of years after I finished nursing. And then I remember another fellow up here, Mr. Pittard. Now I'm through at this stage, so I'm a sister and I'm working up here at the base hospital. And he was blind. Now he would have been a contemporary of my grandfather, and my father was in shoes, full shoes, Pittard shoes, so perhaps I felt I had a little bit of a bond there. So I used to sit on the bed, and which we weren't allowed to do, I might say, but I'd talk to him and read him the newspaper, and just and I'd come back after days off, and the staff would say, all he has said is, when's Sister Fall coming back? When's Sister Fall coming back to work? You know, when I'd go in and see him, oh, I've been waiting for you. So, you know, those are a few just sort of little sort
Very
of...
nice. The memory still moves you.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, I can still see them.
Did he used to take you to the business when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah, yes. And I think back, and every so often I'd come out of school and I'd think, I might walk down, and you'd walk for, it was a fair way from school down to the old office. In fact, that we had the laboratory I can remember in the old plant down in Scott Parade had a tiny little room which was the laboratory. It was probably about 8 foot square. And I'd go down with him when he was, after hours he'd be working. I used to love really getting into that. I don't know, winding in and see how fast I could go. Yeah, I used to play in that laboratory room for hours. And be
So in a way you were always destined to be in the business, weren't you?
I think so, although there was a time later on, of course, that I didn't think I would ever become involved in the business. But I think you're right. I mean, I said on an ad, I grew up with paint flowing through my veins, and I think that's what it really means, that you do literally. I grew up being aware of this business, not understanding it, but being aware of it, that it was Dad's dream, it was his love of his life, and I think it's fair to say that there was no way, even though I worked way outside the business when I first left school, that one day there was just something in the back of my mind that one day I would get back to that business and buy that business back.